I was never inspired by the business world because I feel people show this side of, I've made it and I've got a Lamborghini now, and I'm spending 200,000 on Facebook ads to have a turnover of 1 million. And, to me, that's boring stuff. I'm like, that is not the stuff that doesn't leave a legacy in my definition of success and values.
This is the We Built This Business podcast. I'm your host, Daniel O'Sullivan. This is the podcast for UK business owners to share their journey, their knowledge, their sacrifices, and their successes. This podcast is sponsored by Team Building Experiences. If you're planning a team building event, away day, or corporate event, then check out team-building-experiences.co.uk and state podcast 15 in the comments to receive 15% off your proposal. Hello, and welcome back to the We Built This Business podcast. Today, I'm pleased to have Lisa Shepherd on the podcast talking about the Biskery. The Biskery are a biscuit bakery based in Leeds and have had clients from Google to Meta and Amazon. They have won Great Taste Awards, they have lovely branding and cater for both B2C and B2B markets. Lisa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi.
Lisa, if we can start, can you tell me a little bit more about what the Biskery does?
Yes. So we are an online bakery, meaning we have a HQ, obviously, where we produce all our biscuits in-house, but you can come in, but there's nothing there because we bake to order only. So it's a completely bespoke service we offer for the public and businesses alike. So we can print messages onto biscuits, pictures, QR codes, whatever it is. So we have a little web shop where you can order, say, a birthday box saying happy birthday, Emma, or whatever it is, and we send that directly to Emma through the letterbox. Or 80% of what we do is for businesses. So businesses approach us if they have a launch, a celebration, an event, and they get us to print their logo on, QR codes, whatever it might be, and we send them out. So 99% of what we do, we ship all across the UK.
Brilliant. And the personal branding side of things sounds fantastic for businesses, especially with, for conferences and for promotions and launches. Now, the types of biscuits that you make, what types are they?
So they're all based on my grandma's recipe. It's not that we do a huge amount of different recipes. It's always kind of the same base recipe, which is like a vanilla shortbread. I guess our signature product is a jam sandwich biscuit, so we can print messages onto the top of the sandwich biscuit and then sandwich it together. They have won a Great Taste Award, which we're really proud of, because I think traditionally branded biscuits are a bit of a gimmick, aren't they? Like you get it, you kind of have a little smile, and then you bite into it, and they're not very nice. So we're really proud that ours have won Great Taste Awards because we are real foodies, and we always thought it doesn't do the food justice. Like, why don't you hand out a card if you don't care about the taste? Whereas we're finally at a stage where we can officially, use that Great Taste label to say they don't just look great, they also taste great, which is obviously a great experience. And for the brand to give something that is a nice gift all around, not it looks nice.
Brilliant. And the key element of any product is the quality. And if you're going to give these out, especially if you're going to give them out at conferences, you want people to remember them for being nice as well. So that's a key element. With you said your business partner is Saskia, is that correct? How did you both meet?
Yeah, so whatever I say today is obviously the work and brainchild of Saskia and myself. We met about 10 years ago now at a digital marketing agency where we both worked for the international team. People might hear my accent and before, might take people to tune into it a little bit, but I'm originally from Germany. You can stop guessing now. Saskia is from the Netherlands. So she looked after the Dutch clients. I looked after the German clients. And we just bonded over shared love of baking, and it got so much that we couldn't eat it anymore. So we said, why don't we sell our wares? So we applied to a little market stall, and that's kind of how it began. But because of our digital marketing background, we then moved into the online world and kind of build this brand, which wasn't really intended. But yeah, Saskia's my business partner. She's just not here today.
Fantastic. So were you, for example, bringing the biscuits into the office? Were you based at home?
Yeah, at that stage, we were always the ones who brought cakes in when it was someone's birthday. We experimented with biscuits. And then when we launched the market, whenever there was leftovers, we would bring it into the office. And then our employer at the time was actually our first corporate client, because we approached them when it was Christmas time. We said, how about this year you order a little hamper from us? And they went for it. And that was the first time that we thought, oh, actually, that's quite good. We only had one contact, one touch point, and we've got, £1,000 rather than 20. So how about we do more of this corporate stuff? And that's when we kind of expanded the offering on our website, and more people found us. So then the first company that found us through Google was Penguin Publishers. And we were still baking from home, Saskia and me. We had the day job still, we had little kids. And all of a sudden Penguin Publishers knocks on the door, and we're like, okay, so this is clearly working. And that transformed everything.
So if I could just go back a little bit to the market stall, what year was this that you first foray into kind of selling the biscuits on a market?
So we launched in 2016. We had the idea Christmas 2015. My daughter was 8 months old at that time. And we said, let's just do this. Otherwise, we'll just talk about this for years. Time will never be right. We've got little kids now. This is the worst time, but let's do it. Otherwise, it will just never happen. So 3 months later, we launched our little market stall. But obviously, with the digital marketing background, we didn't just launch the market stall. We had a website, we had a social media presence, we had a brand, we had a brand name with a logo, like the lot. So yeah, that was 2016. And I think the first corporate order was maybe a year later, because obviously it takes a while to build your presence up on Google and stuff. We didn't pay for any ads. It was just organic search results.
So the market stall, how did that go? Was it positive feedback?
Really good. I think it was such a great way for us to start this business, because we've got instant feedback. Because even, Brits are really polite, and even if they didn't say they didn't like it, we could tell from their face and their interesting. So it was really good to kind of narrow the offering down, because at first we brought so many different products. We had like 4 or 5 different biscuit varieties. We had apple pies. We had red wine cakes. So our USP then was more like continental bake. So we brought the flavors from our homes. And it was just really interesting to see what people went for. So yeah, that phase was really interesting in terms of market research. It wasn't good for making money, but it was really good for the market research.
Yeah, well, the testing side of any product is the key part, isn't it? Because if people actually want your product, then you've got something that you can sell to them.
Yeah.
So going on to 2017, you've got your first corporate client. How does the story then go to going full time on the business from leaving the digital marketing business?
Yeah, it was a slow development, because I guess we still weren't sure how we would make it work, because we were baking from home. We weren't drawing a lot of money from the business. We kind of reinvested everything. We still had the day jobs, and it was kind of working for us at the time. And it was only really in the pandemic that things got so busy that we had to make a call. And part of that is because we sent out free biscuits when the lockdowns were imposed. Saskia and I looked at each other and we said, let's do something. Like, this is just so miserable and everybody is locked indoors and we can't see our loved ones. Like, what can we do? Like, well, we still have flour, we still have sugar and eggs and butter. Let's just bake, because that's what we do. We're not key workers. We can't go into hospitals, but we can at least spread some kindness and hope. So we launched something called Kindness, what we called Kindness Biscuits. And it was basically biscuits with encouraging messages, or stay safe, or missing you. And people could nominate someone and have the biscuit sent to them with a handwritten message. And that was literally just something we felt we wanted to do. It wasn't a marketing or PR campaign, but it transformed everything, because we got so much exposure It got shared on Facebook groups and then in the media. And we literally got an email, one email a minute of people, and we didn't really have an e-commerce website at that stage. It was still lead generation because we were mainly B2C. So they emailed us to nominate someone. So we just couldn't keep up. So we had to limit it, and we said, okay, we only send a limited amount of these free biscuits out because we can't keep up with it. So then people said, okay, well, if I can't get my free one, then I'll buy one because I want to support what you do, and I love the idea of sending someone a biscuit. So at a time, obviously, the B2B was completely dead. There was no office events, launches, anything. The B2C carried us through this pandemic. So that's when we said to each other, okay, maybe this is the time now to do it, obviously, when the lockdowns were lifted. And it was also the time when we started working with a business coach because we just couldn't really see what our journey would be. We had always just baked from home around the kids. And we didn't really want to go into a big industrial sites, taking a lot of risks. And so the coach kind of helped us put our visions onto paper and say, okay, this is clearly what you think you have to do, but there's also here what you want to do. How about you work towards doing what you actually want out of your lives and out of this business to give you that lifestyle that you're looking for? So we slowly started to work on that. And the first step really was to move out of the home kitchen into the canteen of our then employer. So we quit our jobs and then asked if we could use their kitchen.
I love that. I love that.
And again, I think that, which is really resourceful, and maybe that's because we're mothers, that we only had so much time, we only had so much money, and then we also were like, why not ask? The worst thing they can say is no, and then we have to find another way. But we knew the kitchen was empty because of the pandemic. No one was working from the office. But it was, not locked down enough, so we weren't allowed to be in there. So it was kind of that middle phase. So they said yes, and we paid them peanuts to be in there, which suited us because we really, it was a big leap from having to financially rely on the business, having to pay for the premises, and then hiring a team. So because we had saved money up in the previous 3 years, we had a little pot, and we're like, okay, we've got maybe 6 months to make this work, and then we run out of money. Because Saskia and I only started with £500 back in 2016. That's all we put in. And we had no investors, no loans, nothing. And we also didn't want to do that. I think for us, it was like, let's just see how far we can get like this. So yeah, that's what we did. And we hired 3 ladies part-time. They were all mums as well. So the part-time arrangement suited them. And they kind of grew as we grew, and they increased their hours as their kids grew. And that was the first step really to move from the kind of side hustle to then it being our main a business, I guess.
Fantastic. And going back to the thank you biscuits that you created, that must have been really, really proud to see those biscuits helping people at a time of need, and also at the same time providing a business with an opportunity to grow as well. So not only did you do a really good thing, but it also helped the business side of things through the PR side. The first premises, I imagine it must have been quite a big jump to go from baking at home to committing, like you said, committing to that first premises. Would you say that you would have done that without a business coach? Sorry.
I think what the business coach did for us was help us build that confidence of it's okay to trailblaze your own path, and it's okay to say these things out loud that you have in your head of like, oh, I'd really like to only work school hours. It's like, yeah, hell yeah, work towards that then if that's what you want. I think we were just so stuck because we don't come from a business background and we hadn't been exposed to many business people. So for us, it was just such a foreign world of, mainly men of a certain age, of a certain caliber, of a certain, net worth. And we were like, oh, we're not like that, So I think for us, he just gave us this boost of like, guys, you're just as worthy of running a business and growing a business as these guys are. And to be honest, these guys, he didn't say that, but obviously we explored that together. He said they don't have it figured out either. They are also making it up, maybe on a bigger scale, but it's all the same. And also we have different definitions of success. We have different values. And he said, as long as you are in line with what matters to you and what you put out there will come back to you. And that's what we saw so beautifully with these kindness biscuits. It was just something we really felt we needed to do, and it gave us so much back. And then really helped us to establish the kind of what we stand for as well at that stage, because it was more than a biscuit. You know, you can obviously go to the shop and buy biscuits for much cheaper, but they won't have the same meaning. So yeah, I think the coach was really important for us to just give us that confidence.
Yeah, because the first step is often the hardest. I mean, I remember going back to my business starting, and I was running it from a spare room for 2 years, and I just, for some reason, didn't commit to getting an office and employees until I almost felt I had to. And in hindsight, I should have done it a year ago before then. And I think that's the reality, that often someone who's not only just been there and done that, but someone who's got a bit more experienced, if you can use and lean on them to provide that information and that confidence, it just enables you to move a few steps faster than not having them around. Do you still have a business coach now?
We don't work with him regularly, but every now and then we do like a session when we feel we need a bit of clarity or just kind of step out of our own thoughts a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with business coaches as well is they come and go depending on your stage of business growth as well and what you're looking to do. And one of the things I wanted to explore more is obviously one of the dreams you said at the start was working school hours, and your current team. So how many people do you have in your current team?
So the core team is 7 people, and we have a few sort of seasonal help as well, because we it's a very seasonal business. It gets quite busy Christmas.
And have you managed to achieve that flexibility for yourself and the team as well?
Definitely for the team. So everybody works slightly different hours depending on their childcare arrangements. Which is obviously tricky. School holidays are tricky. I'm not gonna lie that this is all, just
sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly, yeah. So there are times where there's only 1 or 2 people there, and they have to kind of obviously let some things on the table, leave some because they can't do everything. But so far it's working. We're not turning orders down, we're not disappointing clients, nothing gets missed. So things just slow down a little bit, but we always make sure we're communicating. There's always an autoresponder if no one's responding manually that day. So for myself and Saskia as well, obviously as business owners, it's like being a student or being a mother. You can't really switch off, but I'm not physically in the Biskery outside of school hours. I do work school hours only. I pick my kids up from school every day, and I try not to work on a Friday to kind of decompress a bit and do things to, work on my own sanity a little bit and get that perspective again. But there's definitely evenings where I check some emails or send off something that I just didn't have the headspace for in the day, when you're pulled here then everywhere. So it's a work in progress, but I'm definitely a lot more flexible than I would be if I had an employer.
Yeah, and I guess it's also something to work towards, isn't it? And now you've got a team, it's got to give you great confidence that they're, working as, in theory, you want to be working soon. And the trouble with the business owner is it's very hard to switch off, isn't it? It's one of the biggest challenges. What would you say when you first went for the business and went, I'm going to do this? What was the biggest challenge for you?
I think we had a lot of trust in our product because we had tested it at that point, for years. It wasn't shall we see if this works, and the big launch is coming and we haven't ever sold a single thing. So we had old biscuits for years. So we had a lot of confidence in our our product. I guess the bigger challenge was maybe the confidence of how we'd make it work with our standards of this is the framework we want to work around our children and not the other way around. We want to keep that level of quality and standard. We don't want to all of a sudden, because we have to pay for premises and a team, we don't want to compromise on, say, the quality of the ingredients we use, the eco-friendliness of the packaging we use. So there was just a lot of pressure to make it work with the limited funds we had. So I think the bigger challenge was to figure out how to do that. And for us, the right way was, again, to do it organically in small steps. And, we only hired the team part-time to start with. We didn't, again, the premises were cheap. So then we kind of had time to work on the business, because they finally did all the baking and all the things that we had been doing as well for all those years. And once we put all these little processes in place and did those improvements that the business needed, we saw a real uptake. And then we were like, okay, so this is working. Let's do a bit more. Let's increase their hours if they're ready, or get someone else in so we can fulfill more orders. We can maybe do a bit of Google ads now so more people see us. So it was always slow and organic. But that was the right way for us, because again, we weren't ever in it to build the next unicorn there's also no, because of the nature of the product, speed to market wasn't that important, like biscuits are not a new thing. Branded biscuits aren't even a new thing. So for us, it was more figuring out what we really stand for and what makes us different, and staying true to that.
Yeah. And of course, bootstrapping any business is, it's never quick. You always, just like you say, making gradual improvements each week and each month to try and get to a position where, you've got the quality product that you want, and you're able to offer the service that you want as well. One of the challenges that you talked about, I really liked the way you phrased it, but is not investing money in the boring stuff. Could you give us just like some example of what do you mean by the boring stuff?
Well, I think, I don't know, I was never inspired by the business world, because I feel people show this side of, I've made it, and I've got a Lamborghini now, and I'm spending 200,000 on Facebook ads to have a turnover of 1 million. And to me, that's boring stuff. I'm like, that is not the stuff that doesn't leave a legacy in my definition of success and value. So for me, the more important stuff is how my team feels on a Sunday night. Like, do they enjoy coming to work? Do I enjoy going to work? Am I proud of what I'm building? What's my impact on our planet? Am I a role model for my children? Do I show respect to the people I work with, I work for, and also the resources I'm using? So as you can see, that there's so many considerations that probably keep us from growing faster and making a lot more money, because we have those standards. And I just wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror and go, well done, if I'd compromised on using, margarine that has palm oil in, and then I could be on the shelves of Tesco because I can sell it for much cheaper than, the margins are then higher, because it's just not something I'd be proud of. So I think the boring stuff for me is all that jargon around business that doesn't actually mean anything.
Going back to the team side of things, so you've got a small team. How do you make sure that they are a strong team, like you're saying, that they want to come into work on the Sunday night and they're looking forward to coming in? How do you instill those values in them?
Again, I'm learning on the job. So what we have found works for us is to regularly check in with them. So we have a monthly one-to-one where we sit down and just really create that safe space of how has it been? How is it going? What's difficult? What can we help with? What's going well? What do you want to do more of? To kind of have that in the diary. So even when it gets busy, we make sure we check in with each other. We also try to do like at least a quarterly social where we just all come together and let work be work, but kind of connect on a human level. Again, that's something you can do with a small team, and maybe a bit easier. We're all fairly local as well.
Have you got any examples of the quarterly socials that you've done?
Or anything from paddle boarding at a local river to bowling, playing cards, just having a meal. We try to have a little survey, or what's it called, like a poll where people can say what they'd like to do, and then whatever the majority wants to do, we do. And sometimes we're just all, nah, we're knackered. Let's just sit down and have a drink and play cards. And other times we're like, yeah, let's do a hike or whatever. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is the flexibility we offer. Like there isn't a week that goes by where one of them texts me and says, my child has been sick in the night, I have to, work from home, or I've got a doctor's appointment, can I start later? Or a school assembly, on Tuesday, can I work my hours slightly differently? And the answer is always yes, because we're not heart surgeons. It's not, when if the biscuit gets baked an hour later, it's not the end of the world. So I just think giving people that flexibility, and that is also coming from, it's not a tick box exercise for us. We've got the lived experience of what it's like when you have little people, and you also have so much drive and energy and passion for your career. But an employer might not see that because they see you're late, or they see you have to leave early, or they see you're not coming to the company party on a Tuesday night at 6 or whatever, because you just can't. Like a single moms, how are they going to do it? So I think all these things, and it's one of our company values, is just authenticity. We know what it's like, so we want to make you feel safe to share your challenges, and we're going to understand it because we've been there. And I think that's the single biggest thing.
Yeah, flexibility in the workplace is, you can't put a price on it, essentially, because there is life outside of work, and often that's the trouble with work, that is not built for a life with children. Often, I've got 2 young kids, 5 and 2, and believe me, they keep me busy all the time, no matter when I'm at work or not. But it is an experience trying to do both. I must admit, I did not appreciate it before I had young children.
So many people in decision-making positions and roles don't necessarily have the lived experience, because either they don't have children or they're not the main carer. So they simply don't understand. And it doesn't mean that we don't care about our work. It's just that we have these little people, and I can't just pause them, or, so I'm just trying to amplify the voices of us working parents to say, listen, we're here, we're keen. We just sometimes have challenges that we need to navigate together. And I'm a big fan of employers giving their people that space to then be the best they can be, because they know that there's trust there, I suppose.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's something on LinkedIn called it's the Mums in Marketing community that seems to be quite a popular group. Someone I interviewed last week, essentially. It's popped up on my feed. I think it was yesterday, and it was talking about promoting businesses that focus on that kind of mums in community role. So maybe worth checking out if any of the listeners are in a similar position as well. Wanted to go on to the marketing side of the business, which is a bit that I'm always very passionate about. So you've got some of the biggest brands in the world that's ordered biscuits with you, which is fantastic. Google, Meta, Amazon. How do you go about marketing your biscuits?
So when we first started, it was all organic Google rankings. That's how 90% of our customers found us. There was a bit of word of mouth and a bit of social media, but the big thing was Google, because again, that's what we did. We mainly did like SEO in the agency, so we knew how to start ranking. And I guess our product is fairly niche, so personalized biscuits is not like if we were making cards or dresses. There's a lot more competition. So for us, we could kind of claim a space on the first page of Google after, I think, a year. And there's a few big players in the biscuit world, and then all of a sudden we were number 3, and then we were number 2, and we're like, wow. It's little us. So that was pretty impressive, and it showed us that we have this skill. This would have cost thousands if we'd had to use an SEO agency to get us there. So for us, that was what we knew better than the baking. And that was huge. So, and now sometimes people come to me and they say, how should I even start? And I always say, niche down, create your USP. What makes you special? Why are you special? And just, optimize your pages, update that blog, think of the long-tail keywords. So there's so many things that you can do, even if you don't have the SEO background. There's online courses for free, or, websites where you can really learn a lot of it. And that was so powerful for us. That's how these big brands found us. And then once we had, a bit more of a regular income and had done a few good Christmases and we had some money in the bank, we started investing in Google Ads, because obviously the organic and the paid is always the best mix. So yeah, I guess most people still come to us from Google, but it's harder to tell now if it's organic or paid.
And what about social? Do you do much on social?
So we do a little bit on social. I think that the trouble with our product is that people really like it. It's really visual and it looks lovely and it makes people kind of have that fuzzy feeling. The issue, though, is that it is a luxury product in a sense. They're not cheap. So if you don't need them, you're not going to buy them. It's not like, I'm just going to buy that box of biscuits for $5. Like, we're more talking £20 for a box of biscuits. And unless you have a special birthday for someone coming up, you're just not going to buy them. And same with businesses. Everybody is kind of watching the pennies a little bit, especially at the moment. And if companies don't have the need, then they might like them. But if they don't have a big celebration coming up, they're not going to order them. And I mean, we could spend a load on Meta to kind of obviously keep on the forefront of people's minds, but we just haven't seen the returns that we'd like. So I think for now we're focusing on Google, because that's really working. People are just a lot further down the funnel when they are on Google looking for branded biscuits in London or whatever, which we also pick up because we deliver to London. And then the other thing is LinkedIn, which, I've mentioned. I'm quite active on there just to show the human behind the business and make people feel confident in, they or assured that if they buy from us, they're buying into a good thing. They're supporting a small business with good values, sustainability, family friendliness, all of that. So I'm trying to use LinkedIn to make connections and to kind of share more of what we are all about. And that's also helping for lead generation and kind of building relationships more than anything.
Yeah, fantastic. I spoke to a LinkedIn expert, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and yeah, they were pushing very heavily that, LinkedIn is all about being personable and, talking about yourself, essentially what you're doing in your own business and elsewhere. And that's one of the keys, is just building that little bit of a personal brand around your business as well, and you being in it. I believe you were secured an order for some of the iconic brands. You were approached by an iconic British brand about becoming their supplier. How did that kind of come about?
So the lady, I can't talk about who it is yet, but the lady is a buyer for that iconic British brand. So she had been researching online, and I don't know if it was a social media research or Google research, but she came across it, and she literally said in her email that one of our biscuit boxes is about the nicest thing she'd seen. And she obviously, that's her whole job, is to scan the internet for nice products they could include in their portfolio. So whether it's going ahead or not, I'm almost like, that's beyond, it will or it will not. But the fact that a person working for that brand saying that about our brand, again, gives me a lot of reassurance that we're on the right track with many things.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to finding out who it is when I hopefully see it in the shops this either this summer or this Christmas potentially, because obviously we don't know. Regarding the Great Taste Award, we spoke about that earlier. How did that come about?
So we had sent off our, well, we've seen, obviously, I'm sure people, even if they don't know what it is now, next time you pick up maybe a bit more of an artisan product, but it doesn't have to be. It's many products on supermarket shelves have it as well. It's just this black round logo that says Great Taste. It's from the Guild of Fine Food. So the judges are, the creme de la creme of the chef world. There's like people you would see on MasterChef who are trying the products. So it's not just one of those fake awards. There's loads of those fake awards out there. It's just a money-making exercise for...
You have to apply for them and pay for the application.
You basically pay to win, and it's like, nah, I'm not having that. So you have to pay a little bit to enter, but it's more like an admin fee. And then the biscuits, they get sent off, and then those judges, I think 3 people, taste them, and then they write a little summary of what they thought, and then you get awarded the stars. And we had done that with our Lebkuchen. So we've got a Christmas product, which is a German gingerbread biscuit. They're really traditional from the area I'm from in Germany. And we couldn't find them anywhere in the UK. And if we found them, they weren't nice. So one Christmas I said, let's just make those. And even if it's just for us and family and friends, because they're so nice and I miss them. So we found a recipe, we experimented, and they were better than anything I'd ever tried in Germany even. So we started selling them in little tins, and people absolutely loved them. So then we said, you know what, let's send them off, because I can see this being something that people will actually win us something. And we got a Great Taste Award for those. And then we're like, why don't we send off our signature product? Because if they win, then that's amazing. We can put that on every package. So we sent that off. And the first time we did it, they didn't win there because the feedback was there wasn't enough jam, or I can't remember. The other one I think was that I think it was in the pandemic, and they might have not been stored the right way because of quarantining. And so I think there was a bit of that as well. But we tried again, and we took their feedback on board with the jam, and we tried to, as a fine line, if we do put too much jam on, then it gets smudged and the heart is bleeding into the biscuit. So we kind of experimented a bit, made slight improvements, and then we won the Great Taste Award. And it's really helped us. I think people it's such a well-known mark, I suppose, for your product. And again, no one else in the branded biscuit world has a Great Taste Award. So if you want branded biscuits, but you really are after a good taste, then ours are the ones.
That's a great accolade, isn't it? I mean, that's something that you should be shouting about every day of the week. What's helped you the most, would you say, in your business journey so far?
So one person we couldn't have done it without, well, Saskia's always, I wouldn't be here without Saskia. So there have been so many moments where I was ready to throw the towel and vice versa, but the other one then picked the other one up, and we continued and battled through. Or we took time out. Sometimes you just need to take time out, and the other one has your back. So it's not all about powering through. Sometimes it's just I need a week to just get my perspective back. But another person is definitely the CEO of the agency that we both worked in, because one, he placed that first corporate order, which was already, I'm not sure everybody would have done that, because essentially we were building something on the side while still being employed for him. And he kind of didn't mind that. I think they sometimes even said, start your own business, because then you can try what you learn here, can see if it actually works, the whole digital marketing stuff, which we did, and it did work. And then obviously once we had quit our jobs and asked if we could use the kitchen again, he said yes. And I'm sure many other people would have found that a bit funny, or what about the red tape? And I mean, we had all sorts of contracts, so it's not that it was just, here's the key. But he took the time, to have that chat with us, and he took us seriously, and he gave us an opportunity. And I don't think we could have afforded another place at that stage. So that was massive. So Ian Harris from Search Laboratory, mega thankful to him. And then I would also mention the business coach, Will Polston, because he just helped us with that mindset piece, because we had a great product, we had a good work ethic, and we were just almost putting the barriers up where we didn't need to have them. And he helped us remove those.
Brilliant. I mean, everyone's got, I think, a couple of people that, the business wouldn't be where it is today, like you said, without a couple of guardian angels that have helped along the way. And sometimes all you need is that little bit of either luck or bit of help from someone that's a little bit further along the journey to be able to get you to that next space. And like you said, both were able to provide that for you. If you had to start the business again tomorrow, what would you do differently?
I think I have no regrets, and I think every lesson we learned was a useful one. So it's tough to say if I would make any massive changes. I think I would show up a bit differently from the start, and because I definitely had imposter syndrome in the beginning. You go to a business network and people talk about their revenue and you're not even totally sure what that means, like in the early days. And then looking back, I'm like, it's one Google away from you knowing, like, it's really not the end of the world if you don't know what ROI means. But I guess it knocks your confidence if someone says that and you're like, duh. So I think just the whole, it's okay to not know the answer, because you have the cess to learn, and that is harder to get than having all the answers. So I think just not making myself so small, probably.
So I think that's a brilliant answer. I mean, I think it was Richard Branson that said he was 30 years into business and he didn't know what net profit meant. And, an accountant had to sit down with him and explain it to him in much greater detail. And, he'd already built a couple of $1 billion businesses by this point. And he's like, doesn't really matter. I employ someone to do that for me, and that's the piece, isn't it? Focus on what you're good at. So the future of Biskery, where do you see the Biskery going, Lisa, over the next couple of years?
So Saskia and I are quite adamant about the fact that we don't see our future in retail. So many food businesses consider themselves to be part of the fast-moving consumer goods industry. We don't really want to be there because we don't feel it's necessarily good for anything, good for the planet, good for the nutrition, good for, it's fast-moving alone. I'm not a fan of. So for us, we much prefer the sort of, obviously, keeping it going without the middleman. Like right now, we're selling directly to businesses and directly to the consumer. We do have a few online platforms, like not on the high street, where we sell and then take a little commission. That's fine, but by no means do they, squeeze the margin as much as a supermarket would. So I think we don't like the sort of having a massive manufacturing unit by the side of a motorway somewhere and have people in full body suits and have this sterile environment. I think we very much like the way we work now, which is a small team. It's almost like a little tribe, like a little. I mean, family. I don't like saying family because family is family, but everybody gets on and really likes each other's company. So I think our plan as we grow and scale would be to have more than one Biskery. So to start spreading those maybe across the country and say we now have another premise in Manchester, and then maybe in Birmingham, and then maybe in London at some point, and kind of build up those little units of women, or doesn't have to be women, of people coming together and create beautiful biscuits together. And I think there's no reason why we can't just continue what we do on a bigger scale. Like I often get asked the question, how do you scale? And I'm like, well, one, maybe I don't want to scale to the next multi-million pound business. It doesn't mean that I just want a lifestyle business. I think I'm a bit sick of the either or narrative. I think you can well have a growing and scaling business without compromising on what's really important to you, which for me is my children and my family. But I probably would say, seeing what the biscuit market can do, that there's no reason why we can't scale, but obviously at a pace that works for us.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a really good plan, to be honest. And like you said, you don't have to be. I'm going to be a 200 million pound, biscuit entrepreneur with 100 offices in all around the globe to be successful. You just have to define what your version of success is over the next few years, and you keep moving towards that. The question I like to ask is, what advice would you give to someone trying to start a business in 2024?
So it obviously depends what your idea is. I would say if you can, then test your product before you invest tons of money into it, because we all have great ideas and we can feel really passionate about things. But if people don't agree with you, then it's a failure from the beginning. So I'd say do your market research, speak to people, make sure that you ask questions that so you get the answers you need, because people won't tell you in your face that they don't like it. But by not buying something, like for us at the market, if people just didn't buy that variety of biscuits, that was feedback for us. It's like they sampled it, they didn't buy. They didn't say they're horrible, but they didn't buy, which is already all we need to know. The other thing I would say is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so many businesses launched every day that do what others are already doing, but they put their own spin on it. So I'd say dig deep into what you stand for, why you make it better or different, and that has to become your founder story almost. And the other thing is, and I love that quote, is clarity comes from action, not thought. So just start somewhere. You can have all the dreams and all the vision boards and all the ideas. If you don't start somewhere, it's not going to happen. So I'd say if you can, on a tiny scale, just every day do a little step, and you will learn so much on the journey. You will probably pivot and change, and that is normal. It's part of everybody's journey. But if you don't start, then you won't ever get anywhere.
That's really good advice. I mean, so much there, I think, for anyone that's looking to start a business. And the key aspect, I think, finish with is just start often, isn't it? It's just start doing it. Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed talking with you about your journey. And I think, from the Gratitude Biscuits and, the way you've grown the business from, like you said, your home kitchen all the way to where you are now and the future, I think we've got a really positive few years ahead. How can people who have listened to this podcast find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Daniel. Our website is the Biskery with a K.com. You can find us on all social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Lisa Shepherd, Shephed from the Biskery. And we have created a little discount code for all the listeners. So if you use We Built This, then you get 20% off. Maybe you put it in the show notes as well. And you just mentioned the Gratitude Biscuits. So the Kindness Biscuits, once the pandemic was over, we were a bit sad that this would now end. So we said, let's keep something going. So now every Tuesday we send out, we call Gratitude Tuesday, and we send out free thank you biscuits, obviously a limited amount. But if you head to our website on a Tuesday from 10 o'clock, you can send someone a free award-winning thank you biscuit with a gift note free of charge. So there's no strings attached. You don't have to pay £12 postage. It's completely free. It's just our way to keep this paying forward going.
Lovely. Well, I really look forward to putting everything together, and the show notes, we'll make sure we mention the code as well. What I'll also do is I'm going to order some biscuits, Lisa, as well, so that on the podcast at the end we can show our logo on the biscuits as well, and hopefully all the listeners will enjoy seeing that as well. Lovely. Well, thank you very much. That's another episode of We Built This Business podcast, and we'll be back next Tuesday.